Welcome back. You're still tuned in to Salam Media with myself, Salam Mukudir, and the name of the show is News and Views. And as we continue to delve into the ongoing crisis in Gaza, our next segment focuses on a critical aspect of the war on Gaza, the safety and challenges faced by journalists. Recently, the tragic killing of Al Jazeera reporter Ismail Al-Gholi and Rami Al-Rifi has heightened the extreme dangers confronting media professionals covering the ongoing genocide in Gaza. And with more than 150 journalists having been killed since the beginning of Israel's assault on Gaza, this period has become the deadliest for journalists since records began in 1992. And we are honored in a bit to be joined by award-winning Al Jazeera journalist Youmna El-Sayed, who has reported from Gaza for over a decade. And Youmna was in Gaza during the recent escalation, witnessing firsthand and harrowing conditions faced by both the people and journalists in the region. She will share experiences, challenges faced by journalists in Gaza, and the broader implications for press freedom and humanitarian reporting. Sister Youmna, always a pleasure having you on Salam Media. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. It's always a pleasure to be on your shows. Thank you.
I think first I would like to start with a tweet that you shared on the recent murder of Ismail Al-Gholi, and it said, did you know that Ismail Al-Gholi and Rami Al-Rafi were killed hungry, thirsty, and exhausted? Did you know that Ismail missed very much his little daughter Zaina, who he hadn't seen for the past 9 months? Did you know that he wrote her a letter saying all he wants is to hug her? And I think in a lot of ways, this encapsulates what the journalists in Gaza are currently going through. And have been in that position before. Can you describe, to our listeners, the environment and the conditions that you and other journalists faced while covering the ongoing genocide and war in Gaza?
Well, at the beginning, let's make it very clear to everyone who is listening to us and to who is watching us that every time there is a war in the Gaza Strip, there is always a direct war by the Israeli army on journalists in the Gaza Strip. This has happened many times. This time, this incredible and unprecedented genocide that the people of the Gaza Strip are being slaughtered on a daily basis has never been precedented before. But also the war on journalists, on journalism organizations in the Gaza Strip has been since day one of this war or of this genocide. The systematic targeting of journalists in the Gaza Strip has been ongoing for the past 10 months now, 300 days. They were not accepted in any way. They were not exceptional from any targeting, from all the systematic starvation that was imposed on the people. They were just like any other resident of the Gaza Strip, them and their families. So as a journalist in the Gaza Strip, I suffered the displacement, the forced displacement, the targeting of our offices, having to work and move from place to another, mainly the hospitals, and then the hospitals themselves being targeted with all these journalists in their yards and in their vicinities. So targeting the journalists has always been ongoing since the first day. Let's not forget that 165 Palestinian journalists today, after 300 days, have been killed. That's an enormous number for journalists to be killed. There is no doubt, you cannot say by any way that this is not a deliberate, direct targeting to Palestinian journalists. In many occasions of these killings of the Palestinian journalists, it was a precise and direct targeting of these journalists that were killed. Ismail and Rami, may they rest in peace. They were in the northern part of Gaza. Of course, they were working under very, very difficult challenges and circumstances like all the other residents with very little amounts of food. We know that there has been a great shortage and lack, not just shortage, it has become to the point of lack of food. There's no food, there's no water in the north and in Gaza City, and that implies on all the people in Gaza, including these journalists. They were not spared of this hunger or this thirst or this continuous exhaustion. Ismail, for many times in front of the camera, you would see him and he looks really pale, he looks really tired, just like Anas, just like many other journalists in the north of Gaza and in Gaza City itself. I'm not saying that the journalists in the south are better, but the challenges in the north are so much more than the challenges in the south. And altogether, these difficulties that are, or crises that are human-made crises by the Israeli government and Israeli army on the Palestinian civilians and Palestinian journalists are just unbearable.
And I think, the next question that I'm going to ask you, might sound like it has an obvious answer, but just from a journalist point of view, it will be interesting to find out why. Why target journalists? They don't pose any kind of threat to anyone. They're well marked with their press vests and their helmets. Why is there deliberate attack on journalists and reporting by the Israeli occupying forces in Gaza?
Well, on the contrary, you might think that they do not pose any threat, but they pose the greatest threat on the Israeli army because they are there to inform the world and to expose the Israeli atrocities against the Palestinian unarmed civilians. They are a threat to Israel because they expose all these war crimes that are committed on a daily basis, despite or against all international laws and humanitarian laws that Israel continues to implement, to exercise, to practice every single day on the Palestinian population in the Gaza Strip. Israel has been successful in banning and preventing all international journalists from entering the Gaza Strip, but it did not think that it was going to find all that loyalty and all that persistence by Palestinian journalists for long month of suffering, of torture, of challenges with very little tools, with very little equipment, with little food, with little water, with a lot of exhaustion, and with no safe places to report from. And yet they would be persistent to go on until now for 300 days. And that's why it continues to target journalists more and more. Let's not also forget that Al Jazeera is one of the worldwide networks and has been from day one covering the unfolding events in the Gaza Strip. Al Jazeera English and Arabic both have correspondents in the Gaza Strip even before the war, unlike many other international organizations. So we were there. I am a resident of the Gaza Strip. I've been there for the past 10 years, and I've worked as Al Jazeera correspondent for since 2021. So I am automatically covering all the events from day one since they start. And this has been the case for Al Jazeera Arabic correspondents and other Al Jazeera English correspondents. So this wide world coverage that is coming out from Gaza by these Palestinian correspondents and Palestinian journalists is what Israel has been very much in the most brutal ways, in the most devastating ways, trying to completely kill, trying to completely prevent, but it has failed. And I just want to say that every single time we have to report about a fellow colleague of Al Jazeera or a fellow Palestinian journalist who is also a colleague, we do that with great sorrow, with great grief, with a lot of pain, but it keeps us to continue in more persistency to continue our work and our reporting from the Gaza Strip.
And just listening to you, I keep hearing the word persistent, coming through a lot of times from you, and I'm just trying to think to myself, what motivates that persistence? I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, where you are literally in the eye of the storm. You were witnessing the escalations in real time. You were seeing Gaza being flattened right before your eyes, and in a lot of times dodging bullets and missiles yourself. But that persistence is always there. I mean, we've always, been watching yourself and other Al Jazeera journalists when they're behind the camera. It's cool, calm, collected, do the job, report, not even get out, because there's no way to get out. Try to find a safe place and do it again the next day. Where does it come from? Why don't you just say, I'm dropping this mic, I'm dropping this camera, I can't do this anymore? At the end of the day, I'm also a human, and I fear for my life and my family's life. That persistence, where does it come from?
That persistence comes from two main reasons, I would say. The first is the abundance of the entire world to Gaza journalists by the journalists community, the international journalists community, and by governments of the world who have chosen to abandon the Palestinian population in the Gaza Strip. And so we look at it and we tell ourselves as journalists, we cannot also do the same to our own people. We need to keep to inform this world about what is happening to our people, what is happening to our lands, how they are destroying and ethnically cleansing the people, the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip, how these thousands of children are being slaughtered and killed every single day, how these injured are suffering on a daily basis because of the lack of medication, medical tools, medical equipment, and the ongoing blockade on the Gaza Strip. And the other reason is that this is what real journalism possesses. This is what defines real journalism. This is your time as a journalist to inform, to continue informing. So, yes, we are not, we might be extremely tired, we might be extremely devastated, frustrated, hungry, thirsty, and exhausted to the extent where maybe no other human being can stand and can bear, but we still push ourselves to go on. These journalists standing there until now, all my colleagues, they still push themselves every single day. I watch the news and I watch Hisham Zaqqut, I watch Mu'min al-Shrafi, I watch Ismail, I watch Anas, I watch Hani, I watch Tariq, Hind, everyone, all these other Palestinian journalists in front of the cameras. And I see and I know because I've lived those moments, I've lived those days, but I know that what is keeping them to stand until now is their loyalty and their motivation, that they should continue to report because they will not abandon Gaza like the world has.
Mm, mm, mm. I want to, ask maybe a question which, is going to be, I think, a glimpse into your life. The fact that you yourself personally faced immense challenges, including displacement and loss. How have these experiences shaped your view on the role of journalism in conflict zones, not just in Gaza, but the world over?
Well, I'm sure that any other place in the world will not witness what the Gaza Strip has witnessed. So when you reach that extent of everything, the extent of all challenges that you can face as a journalist, anywhere else in the world would be easier than what you have already experienced in the Gaza Strip. Unfortunately, Israel does not abide to any conventions, international laws, humanitarian laws. It is completely conducting on a daily basis war crimes against the people, against hospitals, against journalists, against paramedics. You witness that as a person, you witness that as a journalist, and you go through all these challenges of trying to keep yourself alive. You are literally trying to keep yourself alive, and then you are trying to keep your family alive when you know that there is no safe place for them or for you. And that's not something that people or a journalist can overcome easily. Yes,
Mm,
we're still fighting because this battle hasn't ended. And I may have come out of Gaza, I may have left the Gaza Strip with my body. I know my soul and my mind are constantly there. But what I do now, because of what I have seen and what I have experienced, I have shaped all this pain. I have shaped all this suffering that I have lived with my family and all this fear to informing the world, to educating the world about what is happening in the Gaza Strip through different conferences and tours worldwide, because I have seen that if this world wasn't willing to listen to what people or journalists have to say from inside Gaza, then it is our duty, if we can, to bring them what is happening from inside Gaza to their own places in the world.
Definitely, and I think one of those tours you speak of is going to be the Southern Africa Media and Journalism Tour, which is happening this month. And this is obviously in conjunction with us here on Salam Media. This is our project with you. This is our partnership with you. How important do you think it is to do what you just mentioned right now? Bringing Gaza to the people, because a lot of South Africans hold Gaza very close to their hearts. We see ourselves in Palestine as much as Palestinians see themselves in us. But that extra touch of having someone like you who was in the eye of the storm, who's experienced Gaza to its you know uh, full extent, to bring that aspect to the people of South Africa, to the people of Southern Africa, and also hopefully the whole world, who can't access Gaza and only see it on their television screens. I'm sure it's something very, very important, and that more of it needs to be done.
Well, of course, and I think it's a very significant thing because this whole world needs to know about what is happening to the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip, in the West Bank, in East Jerusalem. These practices of the Israeli occupation on the Palestinian people, the confiscating of Palestinian lands, the ethnic cleansing of the native population of Palestine, all these practices need to be exposed to the world. And this is the only way you can actually do that, by informing more and more people so that they can be able to inform others. I always believe in the power of the people. I know that governments are the people who are in power, but governments are the minority, while people who have voted and who have elected those people or those governments to present them or represent them and to be in power, they have the power to impose on them what they want. And all we want as Palestinian people is justice. And we can only deliver our suffering to the other nations of the world, where they can start pushing and pressuring their governments to bring us justice towards this many injustices that we have been living in for the past 75 years.
I think we're going to leave it here for now, Sister Yumna. Always a pleasure chatting to you, and really, really excited to meet you when you land here in South Africa. And we take on this really, really important media to educate and to inspire people to be more involved in raising awareness when it comes to Gaza and Palestine as a whole. Jazakallah so much for giving us your time.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. That was Al Jazeera award-winning journalist Youmna El-Sayed, who's giving us, firsthand reporting and firsthand experiences on the ground during her time reporting in Gaza. And as you had there, she'll be having a Southern Africa Media and Journalism Tour. This is in this month of August, Women's Month. I think couldn't be a more perfect month for Salam Media to come up with this initiative. And if you want more information about when you can, meet Sister Youmna and attend one of the sessions that she'll be having, you can follow Salam Media on all of our social media platforms. And if you want to engage with her a bit further, you want to invite her, to come speak, at, whatever organization that you're a part of, you can give Ponte Moletan, the CEO of Salam Media, a call. His number is 081 569 9770. And this is our initiative here at Salam Media, where we try to push the agenda of humanitarian journalism to the fullest of extents. And in what better way to do that than to have Youmna El-Sayed, a humanitarian journalist. She embodies that title in its fullest, and we can't wait to have her here in South Africa. But we have come to the end of our show. It's been a really, really informative and really educational one, but we've come to the end of it, and we hope to see you again next week, Monday, as we continue to push the agenda of humanitarian journalism right here on Salam Media. We're going to leave it here for now. From me, Salalo Makwidiri, Kolani, Nasreen, and the rest of the team is goodbye, and don't stop talking about Gaza. Assalamu alaikum.